significant number. If you say our business grew by 55% or our business declined by 55%, that's a big number. And now, in public speaking and communication, the meaning from the words that you say, 55% of that meaning is derived from the facial expressions. And 38% of the meaning in our words is derived from how the words themselves are said. That leaves us with what? 7%. And only 7% of the meaning in our words is derived from the actual words themselves. So you may choose the right words to say, but say them in the wrong way and express the wrong expression, people will not derive the meaning from what you say. But the words were right. For example, you want to convey your condolences, your friend just lost a partner or something. The words are, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. I pray that the Lord comfort you during this trying moment. Those are nice words. But imagine if you say those words while smiling. Do you think your friend would ever even call you a friend? But the words, the same words, but you say them while smiling. Or you say them, I'm really sorry, man. Yes. I just pray that the Lord, protects you in this trying moment. Yeah, it's okay, man. You'll be fine. The words might have been nice, but they've been said wrongly, and the expressions that accompanied those words was also wrong. And as a result, the person's spirit is dampened even the more, and you lose a friend. And then you say, but I don't understand why. And here is why. So I initially meant to react to a video from the Minister of Energy. Is it Minister of Energy? When I think the early days when we had load shedding, and then the government came to say we are adding more hours. Now there's this minister, I initially meant to react to this video. He was reading, and he was talking about that they were going to increase the hours. But he was smiling. I want to understand that that's like, as a person, he likes to smile, because I saw another press that he gave. He was also smiling when he was talking about the fact that they had reduced the hours. This is funny. For example, if load shedding hours were like at 20 hours, then they've reduced now to like 17. Like we're doing a good thing. He was smiling. I was like, there must be a trainer in that ministry to tell him when like people are angry, people are upset. You can't, even if it is in your demeanor, your nature, like you're just a smiley person. You want to convey that particular information. Quote this person 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 1 month before they give that address. Say at least look sad for the purposes of the press that you're going to give. But he was smiling. And I saw in the comments section, people were commenting about the fact that the minister was smiling. He didn't look sad. And yet he was saying it's a sad situation that the hours of load shedding have gone up because of what has happened with Mamba collieries and all those things. But he didn't look sad. But he said it was sad. The demeanor, his expression. Up to now, I can guarantee you, there's no one who's coaching most of these ministers. They just speak as at will, as and when, as like it's do as you may. It's a buffet, as others would say. You choose. If you don't like to express some emotions, it's okay. Who cares? Zambians will forget. But more often than not, that's the reason why most of our leaders can't even convey credible conviction. Even when we vote, it's rare that we vote because we like the person. We vote because maybe that's the better option. If we are like credible leaders, and I think we will be having credible leaders as we keep going, it will be very hard to vote in people that can't speak confidently. And as we keep going, we realize that all these things are things that we're talking about. The words, these constitute the 20% of what we say. The words, the language, and the consistency of the words. If you're using local language, the consistency. If you're using English, the consistency. If you're using French, whatever it is that you're using, the consistency constitutes 20%. The language itself and the actual words themselves. But the how part, the 80% is the facial expressions, your gestures, your movements, and the awareness of your body language. constitute 80%. So, your hand gestures, you can use different hand gestures to demonstrate different things for different scenarios. It was blow for blow. You do this, you're trying to signify the blow for blow. Movements, you move around meaningfully. We talked about this yesterday and we talk about it today. Not just moving, like this becomes just disaster. Vocal variety. Sometimes if you need to shout. But of course in a meeting with a client, you can't, hey, no. But there's a way you can variate your tone based on what you're saying. That creates a symphony of communication. And of course, your facial expression should be based on what you are saying, not what you are thinking. You might be thinking, I am not an interesting person, but don't express it. Because if you express it, I will know what you are thinking, even if what you are saying is different from what you just expressed. And as we do that, we can practice these few things. Again, for good posture, when we talked about the back and the legs, we talked about this yesterday. Be confident, stand in front of the mirror. And this time, you can sort of start to include some hand gestures when you're standing in front of the mirror, looking at yourself, and you do what the Gen Z say, you are feeling yourself. You feel your own steez, and the reeds, as it were. And then, of course, try to speak, variating your voice. I remember when I was contesting for my speech contest, there's a point where I had to go and whisper. And I moved to someone and said, you have to whisper to yourself, you have to be truthful. And it was an event full of people. And that just put the nail on the head. And of course, practice some good movements. If you have 3 points, move 1, make your point. Move 2, make your point. And move 3, come in the middle, make your point, and conclude. My grandfather's name is Mongai, my name is Oli. I would like us to prepare the questions. I would like us to prepare the questions, if we have any. Again, we'll look at them now. Instead of tomorrow, it will be next week, on Tuesday. You have, the more we go, the less days that you see me around here. So if I'm annoying, you only have like 4 encounters remaining, and I'll be out of this place. But it would be very, very inspiring to meet some of you in the trade, in the fields, watch you on TV, meet you, and see you interact the best way in terms of what you've learned and how you've applied the things that you've learned. It would be good you go home and you speak much better than you currently do right now, or even when they want to host a family meeting, they ask you sort of like just open the floor, and then the rest of us are in chilly. Because there are certain people like that. They may not be rich, but whenever you want to host a certain meeting for the family, they'll be like, okay, you start, and then we'll follow through from what you say. Then us will just be throwing in 1 or 2 ideas. It will really, really bless us, because we'll know that will have impacted at least someone. It may not be everybody. Our wish is that everybody should be impacted, but you only get blessed by the things that you do. So if you do this thing that we are saying, we'll give you the notes, you'll be surprised at what you can achieve as a communicator. So thank you so much, and happy sailing as you go on.
Yes, I wanted to clarity on the questions. I'm thinking about that and we do have a session, but how will we do it?
Oh, the questions are like when we meet in the morning. So initially, like the first few minutes, and I think when we came here, first few minutes, we asked like some sort of like feedback from yesterday and whatnot. So yes, yeah. So like today, before we come to like today's questions, like when we meet tomorrow, like the first few minutes, we just like pick up if you have any questions, something that you need clarity on, and also feedback on what we talked about today. Like what did you learn? What was your takeaway? And if you have any question that you ask to clarify. Yes.
We actually took the feedback as us giving you feedback about your presentation, not that we should ask questions.
Really?
So I was misled.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So now that you've clarified that during the feedback we need to ask questions,
Oh, okay. So on Tuesday, ceteris paribus. On Tuesday, we should have, if there was a question that you didn't ask about yesterday's session, well as today's session, we can have that addressed. We usually are here by 7:50. So if you can start at 8 hours just in terms of just going through questions and whatnot that you might have, by 8:30 that we're supposed to officially start, we should be able to kickstart. If that's okay with you, we would really appreciate that. Yes, sir.
You mentioned yesterday that you'll be able to share these notes or slides with us. So when we find out it was possible for you to share the two slides you had from yesterday and today, so that maybe we can just digest them over the weekend and the course of the week.
Okay.
Maybe we can manage and share the rest of it.
So ideally, of course, he will advise, but ideally, would send at the end of the program. But if you'd like to have them as and when we have them, then you'll have to share your email address and then we'll click and send everybody. Yes. So but he will advise. Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask, so about today's lesson, I just need clarity. Like, I have a question now. What you taught us and what can I ask? Then I didn't get what you're saying. Are you going to answer us next week or you can address the question?
So typically, because I understand that you are working, so we don't want to keep you here longer than necessary. So what I meant was when we come early, because we start at 8:30, so we have like some good amount of time when we're just maybe either seated downstairs just waiting for people to come through, or when like we could be here just setting up when we could be asking questions. So what I meant was the first thing that we do when we come in is to ask questions from the previous session. So like if you have a question, you just note it down. So I don't know if you also got one of those Manot books, but where you just indicate, if you have a question, you just indicate it there. So when we show up for the next session, you ask questions from the previous one, because we don't immediately start. Instead of us just sitting and waiting, we could use that time just so that exactly it's 9.
That's also fine.
Uh-huh.
But perhaps someone can.
Yes, maybe it is driving to the next question. Like, don't you think people might forget the questions?
Okay, that's possible. That's possible. I was just looking at not keeping you here longer. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
so
we could be here the whole day.
if there is there is a way in which so it's maybe 2 or 3 questions
Oh, okay.
that can be asked. It's still fine. You can respond because then you see when you present, it's fresh in the mind, and someone might want to get clarity on something that you maybe they didn't understand during the presentation. So we can allow for just a few questions. But then if there are those questions where they need you maybe to demonstrate something or what, then those are the ones that can push to the next session. Yeah, that's what. So if there are any questions you can ask them before we go.
Yes, you can ask. We've done 57 minutes, so we still have 3 minutes. Yes.
I'm not sure if you'll give us the answer today or next week. What's your best advice? Or maybe you can do a demonstration next time where you help, let's say, I'll be very honest because I'm going to the public sector. So let's say you have the A1R syndrome. I'm sure it doesn't sometimes, it's not really someone's job, maybe the background and all that. But how would you help someone, the way you're training us to improve?
So there's an exercise that we do. So there are people that we actually train just on the AOR syndrome, and we take a whole session. So when I come next week, I'll demonstrate that, and I'll give you an exercise just to try, like before we officially start. So we do have an exercise that we do just to help you sort of pronounce words and avoid the A1R syndrome. Yes. Thank you. Any other questions? 2 more questions, since we've already taken one. If there are no questions, either it was clear or it was confusing. Yes.
The thing is this, guys. This is a training. It's not just a presentation. So we're learning something new. Okay, adding this skill to our skills. So if there's any question you have after he's done presenting, just ask. Even if he's doing his presentation, you can always interject and ask him that question. It is important because that's the only way that's the only way you learn. You see, I may understand what he's teaching, faster and better than someone else here, or even slower than some of you guys. Okay, so if I'm not clear, or if I need a certain, like certain more information, it's an opportunity to ask. So this is like a class. So it's not just a presentation where he's standing, presents, and then you go. No, let's engage and let's learn. Okay.
Okay, so we had one hand, and then him, and then.
I actually have a lot of questions. but
Okay, let's have them.
I need to pick one at least.
Okay.
I'm trying to see which one will. Okay, I think I had it yesterday. Let's say you are talking to people and they are looking at their phones or they are not attentive. Spend all of the phones. Or just feel like they are not interested, even if they're trying to be as as interesting as possible. I mean, but you might have mentioned it somehow, but I think just give me a practical example. How do you get someone's attention back? Or maybe you lost their attention. Or let's just take the phone. They're like that, and you're avoiding saying put your phone down. You don't want to be so direct and might come out as aggressive a little bit. You know, so you still want to communicate that. Can we discuss broadband? Can you put a phone away without saying put your phone down? How would I say it?
So number one, you can make reference to such people, but without calling them out. Let's say, for example, I'm talking, someone be on the phone. And then you're talking and you're like, yeah, so the fundamentals of this conversation are like, you know, this and this. And then you're like for example, ma'am, maybe tell us something. What do you think about what is going on in the country? She won't be responding with the phone. She'll like she did, she'll put up the phone and then say, yeah, I think for me, it's just, she'll answer A, B, C, D. That's one way. Like involve the people that you are talking to. You can ask rhetorical questions, you can ask people to contribute, but don't tell them, tell us, what are you looking at on your phone? Like we also want to know. That, even if the person puts the phone down, you will lose them. They'll not even be listening to what you're doing because you've imbalanced them. But if you're asking them to contribute, that's something that people feel important when they're being asked to contribute something. That's number one. Number two, you can ask people, like, you know, those pastors do this very well. You know, they'll be speaking and they'll say this to your neighbor. That is not by accident. They're trying to get people to interact so that they can come back to what is going on. Or they'll say, high five your neighbor, even if you have your phone, sure. And high five. No, you do high five. Some people even start laughing while they're doing high five and whatnot. And within that moment, you capture their attention. And the next thing you say after that should be another, you know, important point that you are making part of your speech. So you can ask people to do that. There are some extremes where you ask people to stand. Say, I would like us to do something very special. I would like us to stand. This is if it's not like a big audience. I would like us to stand. While we are standing, I would like us to count 1 up to 3. Or I would like us to do what I am saying and not what I am doing. We do this in our team building trainings. Like I'll be saying something and doing something else, but I'm telling you, do what I am saying, not what I am doing. I can say clap, but I'm not clapping. I can say clap. So do what I'm saying, not what I'm doing. I can say jump, and then I'm doing it. So you clap. So that engages, like it brings back people to what you're talking about. The other thing is that you can pause. People will be on their phone as long as you are talking, but when you pause, they will suspect you are looking at them, even when you are not. When you pause, people sort of like, what's going on? And then once you have their attention, again you make your point. And like we said, a maximum of 5 seconds, not longer than that. But pausing, I've done this several times. In fact, there's even a course that we do on how to deal with difficult audiences, where like, you are in an audience and someone is speaking, like they're chatting, and then it's audible. You are talking and it's very audible and they don't even know. And they'll be like, I'm talking. What I've seen other speakers do, they'll call them out. You two, stand, tell us, what are you discussing? That's embarrassing. I mean, you wouldn't want someone to do that to you. But these ways that we've talked about, ask them to contribute, to say something, and not something embarrassing, like something in line with what you're talking about. Even if they do not answer, you can say, who could jump in and help him? That way they'll not see it as a target or an attack. It's part of contributing to what is going on. You can ask rhetorical questions. Raise up your hand if you have found yourself in this situation. Put up your hand if you've ever struggled with this load shedding that is ongoing. Do this like all that thing is intended to engage the audience so that they are in the moment. It's not the easiest of things to do because after again you start talking 1-2 minutes later, there's something on TikTok. And you know with this thing with the earbuds where you can put like it's not a headset where like there's a cable because that one looks weird when you're talking and then you're putting it on, But with the earbud, it could be they're those small and you can't even notice the person is putting it on. And they'll be on TikTok and you're talking. It's very hard to keep an audience engaged. But using some of these things that we've talked about, asking rhetorical questions, asking them to say something to their neighbor, ask them to contribute, ask rhetorical questions, ask a question for someone to answer, so that the answer is coming from an audience. They will listen to one of them at least. When someone is in the audience, say, okay, I think is you see people turning and looking at that person. Once they are done, you make your point. Again, you go on and on. That's why, as a communicator, you need to keep engaging. You need to use some humor. You need to use some stories. And these are things that we'll be talking about even as we keep going. And storytelling is one of those. Yes. Any other? Okay, him and then. Yes.
Okay. My question is on audience behavior analysis. You mentioned that we need to analyze the mood of the audience. But when you go on the stage, what are some of the things you can do for you to analyze the mood for the audience?
So one of the things that you can do is, when you say, like again, it depends on how you are opening the speech. If you are opening the speech, my name, what's your name?
Richard.
My name is Richard. I graduated from the University of Zambia or University of Lusaka. I have a bachelor's degree in marketing and finance or whatever it is. There's a way the audience and here's one thing that many people don't do when they're speaking. They're not even looking at the audience. So they'll pretend like they're looking at the audience, but they're not looking at the audience. And as they keep doing that, they are missing out on what the audience is giving as a signal. So one of the ways you can tell is, are they good? Are they listening? For example, if you're talking to me, talk to me.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm better than yesterday. Yeah, how's life going?
Life is okay. How is home?
Home is good. Home is good. Yeah. Home is good. Are you able to notice something? I'm not only paying attention, I'm doing something else. But what should you do? For example, if you ask me, how is home? And then I answer, home is good, and then you pause. I'll be forced to stop what I'm doing and look at, what are you doing? But that only happens if you're paying attention. But if you keep talking in the chaos will also continue and it will look at as part of the speech. So look at how the audience is responding to what you are saying. If you say, put up your hand if you've been in this situation and only 2 people put up their hands in an audience of 100 people, then I think there's something wrong here. You try something else, again, you see that the participation is not as good. Then you notice that there's something else here. I need to change what I'm doing. And here's a typical example. When I was competing in Zimbabwe, I asked to say, how many of us have ever told a lie? And this was an audience of 500 people. No one put up their hand. My initial plan was when I asked people to put up their hand, and then they put up their hand, and then I'll go like, the contest chair. This is to show you that people tell lies. Look at how many people have admitted that they have told a lie at least at one point or another. But I said that no one raised their hand. I was embarrassed. But of course I couldn't show that. So I said, wow, you people must be the most honest people I've ever met. You tell me you've never told a lie? Let me do this again. How many of us told a lie last week and people now raise their hands? And then I said, you see, this is to show that people tell lies. But here's another thing that I was prepared to do right there on the stage when I didn't get the first response. If again, after I asked that people did raise their hands, I was going to go like, this is a proof that people right now, they are lying that they've never lied. And that's because I'm paying attention. And the more I kept going into the speech, people got a bit more comfortable. And it was later on when I found out that, but when I was done speaking, most of the audience there was Zimbabwe. From Zambia, we only had about 10 people out of the 500. And they wanted to make sure that the guys from Zambia don't win. But from that day when I gave that particular speech, And I changed how I had initially planned to deliver it. And I was looking at how the response that they were giving me. I was able to edit some of the things that I had initially planned to do or to use to say to match what they were doing, and then raise the bar as I kept going. So one of those things is when you ask a rhetorical question, look at how people are responding. Don't use it and say, why you people are not happy? I've seen speakers like that. Like, you guys don't look happy. It's not our responsibility to look happy. It's up to you to make us happy. Because if you bring another person here, you will see how happy we are. So it's not us, it's you. So now, what do? You change the delivery. So that's why you can't start your presentation with my name, I have a degree in this, I'm coming from a family of 4 and whatnot. Those things usually may not give you a correct picture on how people are feeling. But if you start with a story, you start with a rhetorical question, you start with a statement, those things like sort of gauge and give you what people are feeling in the room, and then it gives you an opportunity to edit. Sometimes you can start with some silence. And when you are quiet, look at the people. What are people on their phones? Are people talking to each other? Or are people now telling each other, what's going on? Then you know you have their attention. And then you strike. That way, it helps you to stay afloat. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So pay attention by asking sometimes rhetorical questions and see how people respond. It's like testing the water. Like someone says, you can't test how deep the river is with both legs. Like at least one of your legs has to be outside or holding something so that you test like how. Because if you test with both legs, you are gone if it's deep. Right? Yes.
Yes. Thanks. I'm trying to bring it home a little bit. So much of my communication doesn't involve crowds. Anita Joyce myself, speaking to a lot of people, but it involves speaking to maybe 1 or 3 clients, and that's where now the struggle to communicate effectively comes in. Yes. Then I wanted to ask, because in that case it's very difficult to get feedback when I'm communicating to a client. My speech may be good or bad, based on how I come out here. But how do I get feedback in such a case? How do I ensure that actually, or how do I monitor myself that what I said is okay, or maybe next time I should communicate in such a manner? Then the other thing that I also wanted to ask is, if I follow you closely, it's more like you're trying to incorporate psychology into how you look at the crowd and how you saw it together. But is it advisable to maybe look at a few principles of psychology so that we can effectively communicate to people? I'm looking at one-on-one because I'm struggling with that. Yeah, before I can get to to a lot of people, current people, but I think on one-on-one is where the challenge is. And I feel if I can manage on one-on-one, then I think with a large mass to be very easier. Yes.
So everything that we're saying here applies both from one-on-one and to a crowd. And here's an example. Like for example, yesterday I think I was giving examples, like for example, you're going to talk to your friend who's just lost someone special. You would have to engage them. And one of those questions you ask is, how are you? And I actually did that today. I was asking him, how are you? And they said, are you sure? I'm talking to him. That's one-on-one, but just that way. Of course, he laughed. But then he says, yeah, I'm sure. And then I said, but how do you know you are sure? Already the conversation started from there. It's one-on-one. I do this, I deal with clients a lot. And one of the ways, and I think I used this as an example yesterday. If I didn't, then maybe it was another audience that we were training. I developed a way of answering to spike conversations when I'm talking to people. Whenever I'm asked, how are you? My response is, I am better than yesterday, and how are you? That always gets people asking me, what happened yesterday? This is one-on-one. And we start talking about, yeah, but yesterday was better than the other day. I just keep getting better each day. And then some of them will be like, so what exactly happened yesterday that makes you feel like, yesterday was better? And then maybe I'll say something that happened, like, yeah, yesterday I didn't meet you, like today, here we are. And they're like, wow, that's a very good, perspective. Oh yeah, sure. Let's get down to detail. Like then you go to talk about what you're talking about. So all these principles apply to what we're talking about. Even if you're talking to just one person, if you're not pronouncing the words correctly, that will affect how they will hear what you are saying. If you're in a sales team, part of your feedback is how effective you close deals. That already gives you feedback, whether you are a good communicator or not. There's a place that we used to work at some point, where if a deal involves more than $20 million, they will not send the guy who brought the deal. they'll have to send me with the CEO to go. The person brought the deal. This person initially talked to the person who talked to the CEO of that company to create the meeting. But like, this size of the meeting. And this is like 3 people. One from finance, one from from the CEO's office, as well as maybe another one from operations. 3 people. But based off how you communicate, even just on one-on-one, how you break the ice, how you make people comfortable that you are talking to. It could just be 2 people that you're talking to. How you make them comfortable has everything to do with how you are interacting with these things that we are talking about. So, practice. You can actually practice this even when you are in the office. Like you're talking to the people that are here in this room. Like, try to practice with them and talk to them while implementing some of these things that we've talked about. For example, have you ever asked someone to say, tell me about how your day was yesterday? In this office. And then they tell you, and then you highlight something that they say, wow, that's really important, that's really good. Without talking about how your day went. That already shows you that you are interested in their welfare. That's one-on-one. Tomorrow, you might not need to ask, they'll tell you themselves. And I see this when you are meeting clients. The moment you are quick to talk about yourself or to talk about what your product does, or what it is that you are selling, you are more likely to lose them than when you ask questions about how they are, how the business are. And sometimes you walk into the office like, how's your business? How has it been affected by load shedding? But you want to get them to a place where they like you, and I think I emphasized this yesterday, to a place where they like you. And because they like you, then you bring out your business. And one of those things that you do is you engage them. And how do you engage them? Sometimes you tell a story. For example, tell a story about how your business has been affected by load shedding, and then ask them, what about you here? How is it like? You haven't talked about the business yet. It's just one-on-one. Even when you're answering a call, a client calls and has a complaint, especially those that are in a call center, when we do call center trainings. If a client is complaining, even if what they're complaining about doesn't make sense, don't dismiss them. Because that's how they feel in that moment. And if you've ever called Zesco call center, I don't know what happens. I don't know if those people are paid. Like, I'm now speaking as my personal experience. Some of them, like, you are talking to them and you can tell this issue of mine won't be resolved because of how this person is answering. Sir, no, just here's the complaint number. We'll give you the and I don't even know if they get trained, those guys. They're just talking to one person, but you can tell their communication skills are not good. I'm telling you that since yesterday we've not had power, and you're telling me, get this complaint number. Ask me at least what happened. You understand what I'm saying? And that comes from cultivating good communication skills. Why? Because you want to hear what the other person has to say before you can respond. And even before you respond, you can even do things like, let me find out from my manager. Just give me a second, just hold. That will make you feel a certain kind of way. Like, even if the person just held the phone and they're like, yes, we have another one calling this site. After maybe 1 minute, okay, yes, so sorry sir about that. And so here's the complaint number. I've actually taken your issue and that happened to me once at Airtel. Because I made a transaction. It was deducted in my Airtel money, but it didn't get to my bank. I went there at the head office. I was talking to this receptionist. And she was just, like, she upsetted me, in short. So just saying, no, there are a lot of people that are having all those issues. So, and that's like on a Thursday. So this issue can only be resolved on Monday. I'm like, today is Thursday. And I was applying for some certification. Now, while I was there, I was trying to tell her, at least get to hear my issue. I want to find out whether this is on Airtel's end or maybe it's my bank that hasn't received the money, but it was successful on Airtel's end. No, she was not giving me the time. And while I was there, the manager's office was just like on the other side. And so the manager overheard what I was saying, and my complaint, and called me to the office. And we sat down and like, oh no, wait, let me call someone from our operations team. While I was there, I called the person from, I'm trying to find out the transaction. I gave her the transaction, my mobile money number, and the person checked, oh, okay, I can see this transaction. It says it's still pending, and this is because of A, B, C, D that is happening within the organization. And then this lady says, I'm committing myself to make sure that your transaction is reversed to your mobile money. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, this must be able to happen first thing Monday morning. It was the same information about happening on Monday, but this person committed. And then later on, like the next day, the person called me in the afternoon. We're still experiencing the same issue. Just give us some time. You'll be able to see your money. And I was calm. Now, the other person, again, the same communication, the other person couldn't even get to a point where they listened to what my concerns were and why I was worried, because I was applying for the certification and it was expiring on a Friday. So I was thinking, if it doesn't happen today, at least tomorrow it will happen. But if it's Monday, then I'm losing out on the deadline. Talking to one person. So communication, all these things that we are saying, or all these things that we are talking about, they apply both at a personal level as well as at an audience level, like where you have 3, 4, 5 people. And yesterday, I think we even used a lot of examples about relationships, about women, you know. We used those examples a lot yesterday. And the intention was to show you how, at a basic level, they are able to apply. Right? I hope that answers the question. All right, thank you. But again, like we say, let's keep talking and let's keep going through these particular things just to highlight those. So this is the speech I was talking about.
That a good speech lives forever, and on the occasion of the swearing in of...
Just 2 minutes.
It is often said that a good speech lives forever, and on the occasion of the swearing in of Ghana's new president, Nana Akufo-Addo, whole paragraphs from the inauguration speeches of 2 American presidents appear to find their way into his speech. While Nana Akufo-Addo gave a passionate speech, hawk-eyed individuals were quick to note the similarities between his words and those of former President Bill Clinton's inauguration speech in 1993.
Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths. Though our challenges are fearsome, so are our strengths. Americans have never been a restless, questing, hopeful people. Ghanaians have ever been a restless, questing, hopeful people. And we must bring to our task today the vision and will of those who came before us. And we must bring to our task today the vision and will of those who came before us.
In another passage, Akufo-Addo appearing to echo the words of George Bush from his speech when he took office in 2001.
I ask you to be citizens. I ask you to be citizens. Citizens, not spectators. Citizens, not spectators.
Held up side by side, it was clear that this was no coincidence.
Citizens, not subjects. Citizens, not subjects. Responsible citizens, building communities of service and a nation of character. Responsible citizens, building our communities and our nation.
The Director of Communications at the Office of the Presidency struggling to apologize for what he now terms an oversight. This is not the first time an African president has been accused of plagiarizing an address. Last year, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari admitted that part of his speech had been derived from US President Barack Obama's 2008 address. Wilkes Anyabo, Citizen Live at 1.
So, now here's the reality of all these things. In America, when a new president comes into power, they will hire someone to coach them on public speaking and someone to write the speeches. Our African presidents, I'm yet to find one who has someone who coaches them on how to come out in public. They may have people that write the speeches, maybe like from the Ministry of Information, and most of those are not even trained. They may be journalists or mass communicators, but public speaking and communication has to do a lot with critical thinking and how you apply yourself. Now, this is not the first time, as you've heard, and they are not the only 2 presidents. There are a lot more other presidents that if we were to now start digging, you'll be amazed. Because the people that write, they'll just say, wow, Obama said a nice speech. Then they'll just edit. Where it says America, they'll just put Zambia. Where it says UK or United Kingdom, they'll just put Zambia. But there are a lot of stories that we can use here in the country to drive the same conviction. For example, if I was the head of state today, whenever I am coming to speak on any subject, I will try by all means to highlight that things are tough right now, but we are working towards a certain end. We might not see the benefits right now. Like, I'll try to highlight that as much as possible so that people can at least hold on while we are still in this particular trying moment. And if I was the one writing the speech for the president, every speech should start with a story from the community. People that people can relate to. That's what American presidents do. That's what global leaders do. They always find things that can easily be related to people in their communities. Now, this man still went on to win his second term. He's still the president of Ghana, by the way. And the person, I don't know if they fired the person who wrote, did you hear what they said, that it was just an oversight? What do you mean that that was literally, he plagiarized and you put it on the president, and the president was not diligent enough to go. We can excuse him because obviously say, he's busy and whatnot. But he knew he was going to give that speech way ahead of time. Bill Clinton, George Bush, these are critical, they're recent heads of states in America. At least you could have found their speeches somewhere. But no. Apparently, only the guy who was writing found their speeches and he was like, I think I can use this in the Ghana context and apply it and get it to the president without fear. And because the internet makes the world a global village, someone was like, no, wait a minute. I think I've heard this speech somewhere. And they went on. In fact, there's even another video where they put them side by side. And someone was reacting on where we went wrong as Africa. Someone can't even just write a genuine speech on things that are happening in Ghana. So I hope that in the time that we'll be here together, we'll be able to cultivate a sense of confidence, a sense of competence, as much as it relates to public speaking and communication. Do not leave the communication part out. It's very critical. Because you're not just speaking in public, but you're communicating to people you live with, to people that you work with. There are some of you, your friends can't even tell you a secret here in the office. That's communication. There are some of you, someone can't even trust you with some of the issues that they're going through, and they just need someone to listen to them. So I hope that this program will be able to achieve that as we keep going. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Lee.
All right, thank you.